This is part 2 of State versus Quiterio-Morrison, Court of Appeals of North Carolina. Defendant remained at home for approximately 30 minutes before going to a landfill around 8:30 a.m. Later in the day, defendant went to play a soccer game and also went to the Dollar General. Video footage obtained from the Dollar General showed defendant buying a container of Purple Power degreaser and a container of bleach. A 9mm belonging to defendant was found near the soccer field. The shell casings found outside defendant's house did not correspond to the found near the soccer field, but they did match one of the two other defendant owned. Defendant went back to the area of Winston-Salem and ultimately to the area around his house. An officer preparing a search warrant outside defendant's house observed defendant's truck start to turn on the street before veering away and leaving the area. Defendant drove to his mother's house instead. Video footage obtained from security cameras outside the house of defendant's mother showed that around 1:32 p.m. on 23 May 2021, defendant's truck was parked outside his mother's home and something was being burned behind it. Around 4:46 p.m., defendant's mother took a big bag and placed it in a trash can outside. One of defendant's sister later provided the bag to the police. It contained a pair of white sneakers which had been earned. Around 5:32 p.m., Cincinnati and his father are shown on security camera footage and people start hugging. Detective Ognoski, the lead detective on the case, testified it appears they are saying goodbye to each other. The men get into a car driven by defendant's mother. Detective Ognoski explains this was the last time anyone had seen Cincinnati since this incident happened. On or about 24 May 2021, defendant's truck was found abandoned on the side of the road with the keys in it. Mitchell's vehicle was later found less than 2 miles away from Santa Maria's house. At the close of the state's evidence, defense counsel made a motion to dismiss on the basis there was insufficient evidence to support each charge, and also asserted a variance existed between the crimes alleged in the indictments and the crimes for which the state presented evidence. The trial court denied this motion. Defendant testified on his own behalf. Defendant's testimony largely corroborated the state's order of events, but he disputed the extent of his involvement in Mitchell's murder. Defendant testified that he was with Cincinnati at the same bar as Avita Noyola and Mitchell on the night in question. Cincinnati wore a pair of white sneakers borrowed from defendant. Defendant drove home from the bar with Cincinnati shortly before 2 a.m. Cincinnati allegedly used defendant's phone to text someone during the drive. Defendant explained he would often let Cincinnati use his phone to contact women, including Avila Noyola, because Cincinnati had a girlfriend that lived with him at his house. And due to that and him cheating, he did not want her to find that out, so he texted her through my accounts. After arriving at defendant's house, Cincinnati allegedly told defendant he had invited someone to fight. Defendant testified he told Cincinnati that this was not a good idea and he would take Cincinnati home instead. Cincinnati agreed, but as the men were getting into defendant's truck to leave, Mitchell arrived. Cincinnati was already in the truck with the door closed. Defendant was standing outside of the driver's side of the vehicle. Mitchell punched defendant in the face. The two men continued to fight until defendant heard to end. Defendant testified he saw Cisneros standing 5 to 6 feet away, holding a gun. The men left Mitchell's Audi outside and went back into the house. Defendant testified Cisneros said he was going to Santa Maria's house to hide and to think about his next move. Mitchell's body was allegedly no longer outside when defendant followed a minute and a half after. Cisneros left in Mitchell's car. Defendant followed in his truck. Defendant testified he arrived at Santa Maria's house first, woke Santa Maria up and told Santa Maria not to ask any questions, but Cisneros did it someone. After Cisneros arrived, defendants asked him why he brought the Audi to Edgar Santa Maria's house. Cisneros responded he didn't, that it was defendant who had brought the Audi. Defendant went inside and discovered Mitchell's in the bed of his truck. Defendant denied assisting in placing Mitchell's in the truck. He testified he did not know Cisneros had placed there because the truck is lifted so that its bed is 6 feet high, whereas defendant is only 5'5". Defendant testified he felt horrible because now I felt directly involved in this murder. Defendant further testified he was upset Cisneros had put Mitchell's in his truck because defendant took a lot of pride in his vehicle and it was clear disrespectful for his vehicle. Defendant gave Cisneros the keys to his truck and told Cisneros he needed to do whatever he needed to do, that I am not going to be involved in this any further. Defendant went back inside Santa Maria's house and fell asleep on the couch. 2 to 3 hours later, Cisneros woke defendant up and told defendant, we're going to get rid of this. Defendant testified that when he expressed reluctance, Cisneros became more aggressive. Defendant testified he was scared that he was going to be next. The two men then left Santa Maria's house. Defendant led with Cisneros following behind. The men drove to the horse track when Cisneros dug a ditch. Defendant remained in his truck until Cisneros signaled him to bring Mitchell's. Defendant turned his truck around and pulling off the bed of the truck. Defendant testified, I actually by myself, I grabbed Mitchell by his clothes and dragged him off the vehicle. Cisneros backfilled the ditch. Defendant testified Cisneros is only an inch or two taller than himself. Mitchell was described as close to 6 feet tall. The men left and defendant drove straight home. Defendant then went to the landfill to get rid of household items. Defendant called Cisneros 8 times while there. And this is the conclusion of part 2. Stay tuned for part 3.